Welcome to my channel. Listen to my stories every day. Comment, like and subscribe to my channel. Enjoy listening. I was sitting at home, the humdrum of the afternoon filling the air with a sense of mundane tranquility. The landline rang, a sound that had become almost foreign in this age of smartphones. I glanced at it, mildly surprised. Hardly anyone used the landline anymore. Curiosity piqued, I decided to pick up the phone. "Hello," I said, my voice cautious. There was a moment of silence before an unfamiliar male voice came through, husky and low. "Hi honey, is everything on schedule today? Meet me at the Big Surf Cafe, 8 p.m. My jaw almost dropped. The shock was swift and disorienting. This was clearly a mistake, or was it? My wife, Claire, had never mentioned any rendezvous with anyone at the Big Surf Cafe, let alone at 8 p.m. A mixture of confusion and a tinge of jealousy surged through me. But then, an idea began to form. I decided to play along. Trying to mimic Claire's voice as best as I could, I said a short yes, then hung up. My mind raced. I already had a revenge plan in my head for something unrelated, but now everything seemed to pivot around this mysterious call. To begin with, I needed to understand what was happening. I paced the living room, my thoughts in turmoil. Could Claire be seeing someone else? The idea seemed preposterous. We had been married for 10 years, and despite the usual ups and downs, our relationship had been solid. But the nagging doubt was there, and I couldn't shake it off. I decided to dig a little deeper. I walked into our bedroom and opened Claire's wardrobe. It felt wrong to snoop, but I needed answers. Her clothes were neatly arranged, nothing out of the ordinary. Then I noticed her laptop on the nightstand. I hesitated, but my curiosity got the better of me. I opened it, and to my surprise, it was unlocked. I navigated through her emails and social media, feeling like an intruder in my own home. There was nothing suspicious, no hidden messages or secret meetings. But then I saw it, a calendar entry for tonight. Dinner with M, it said. My heart pounded. Who was M? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I needed to go to the Big Surf Cafe. I needed to see who this man was and what was going on. But I couldn't go as myself, that would raise too many questions. I had to be discreet. I rummaged through my closet and found an old baseball cap and sunglasses. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. I needed to blend in, to watch and observe without being noticed. I checked the time. It was already 6 p.m. I had 2 hours to get ready and get to the cafe. As I prepared, my mind kept playing scenarios. What if this was all a misunderstanding? What if Claire had a perfectly innocent explanation? But then, why the secrecy? The questions kept coming, each one adding to my determination to find out the truth. At 7:45 p.m., I left the house, my heart pounding with anticipation and dread. The drive to the Big Surf Cafe was a blur. My mind raced with thoughts of what I might discover. The cafe was a quaint, beachside place, always buzzing with tourists and locals. I parked a few blocks away and walked, keeping my head down, trying to look inconspicuous. I entered the cafe and took a seat near the back, where I could see the entrance clearly. The place was lively, the hum of conversation and clinking of glasses filling the air. I ordered a coffee, trying to steady my nerves. The minutes ticked by agonizingly slowly. At exactly 8 p.m., the door opened and a man walked in. He was tall, with a rugged look, wearing a leather jacket. He scanned the room, and then he saw her. Claire. She walked in behind him, smiling. My heart sank. She looked happy, radiant even. She greeted the man with a hug, and they sat down at a table near the window. I strained to hear their conversation, but it was impossible over the noise of the cafe. I could see them talking, laughing, their body language comfortable and familiar. Who was this man, and what was he to my wife? The barista brought my coffee, and I tried to act normal, my eyes darting back to Claire and her companion. They ordered drinks, and the man leaned in, talking earnestly. Claire nodded, her expression serious. I wished I could hear them, to understand what was going on. Then the man reached across the table and took Claire's hand. My breath caught. This was more than just a friendly meeting. The evidence was right in front of me, but I needed more. I needed to confront Claire, to hear her side of the story. I waited for what felt like an eternity, watching them, my mind racing with possibilities. Finally, after what seemed like hours, they stood up. Claire hugged the man again, and they parted ways. She headed towards the exit, and I knew I had to follow her. I left some money on the table and slipped out behind her, keeping a safe distance. She walked towards our car, her steps light and unhurried. I followed, my heart in my throat. As she reached the car, I called out, "Claire." She turned, her eyes wide with surprise. "Jack, what are you doing here?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "I could ask you the same thing. Who was that man?" Her expression shifted, a mix of guilt and defiance. "It's not what you think, Jack. Let me explain." "Then explain," I said, my voice hard. "Because from where I stand, it looks like you're hiding something." Claire sighed, running a hand through her hair. "Okay, let's talk. But not here. Let's go home." We drove in silence, the tension between us palpable. My mind was a whirl of emotions, part of me wanting to believe her, part of me afraid of what I might hear. When we got home, we sat down in the living room, the air heavy with unspoken words. "Jack," Claire began, her voice trembling slightly. "I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want to worry you. The man you saw is Mark. He's an old friend, someone I used to know before we met." "Why the secrecy?" I asked, my tone softer now. "Why not just tell me?" "Because," she said, her eyes filling with tears, "Mark has been going through a rough time and he needed someone to talk to. I didn't want to drag you into it, especially when things are already stressful for us." I looked at her, trying to read her expression. Was she telling the truth? Or was this just a convenient story? "Claire," I said slowly, "I want to believe you. But you have to understand how this looks. Why didn't you just tell me from the beginning?" "I was afraid," she admitted. "Afraid you'd think there was more to it, that you'd be jealous. I didn't handle it well, and I'm sorry." I sighed, the weight of the evening settling over me. "I want to trust you, Claire. But this is a lot to take in." "I know," she said, reaching for my hand. "But I promise you, there's nothing going on. Just a friend who needed help." I nodded, still uncertain. "We'll see," I said finally. "We'll see." As I sat there, holding her hand, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this story. And I knew, deep down, that the only way to find out was to keep digging. The mystery was far from over, and I was determined to get to the bottom of it. The next morning I wake up with a sense of unease. Claire lies beside me, her breathing steady and calm, as if the events of last night were just a bad dream. But they weren't. I slip out of bed quietly, careful not to wake her, and head to the kitchen. The smell of freshly brewed coffee fills the air, but it does little to soothe my nerves. As I sip my coffee, my mind races. I can't shake the image of Claire with Mark, their closeness, the way they looked at each other. Claire's explanation might be true, but I need to be sure. I need to dig deeper. I decide to call my best friend Tom. He's a private investigator, and if anyone can help me get to the bottom of this, it's him. I dial his number and wait, my fingers drumming impatiently on the kitchen counter. "Hey, Jack," Tom's voice comes through the line, cheerful as always. "What's up?" "Tom, I need your help," I say, my voice low. "Can we meet up? It's important." "Worries," of course he replies, his tone shifting to concern. "How about Joe's Diner in an hour?" "Perfect. See you there," I say, hanging up. I leave a note for Claire, telling her I went out for a walk, and head to Joe's Diner. The place is busy, filled with the morning rush of people grabbing breakfast before work. I spot Tom at a corner booth, his laptop open in front of him. "Jack, over here," he calls, waving me over. I slide into the booth opposite him, and he immediately picks up on my anxiety. "What's going on, Jack? You look like you've seen a ghost." I take a deep breath and tell him everything: the phone call, the meeting at the big surf cafe, and Claire's explanation. Tom listens intently, his expression serious. So, you think she might be hiding something, he asks once I'm done. I don't know, Tom, I admit. I want to believe her, but something just doesn't add up. Can you look into this Mark guy for me? See if there's anything suspicious. Tom nods. Of course. I'll need some details about him. Anything you can give me. I think back to the brief glimpse I got of Mark. He's tall, rugged, wears a leather jacket. Claire called him an old friend named Mark. That's all I've got. Tom types furiously on his laptop, his brow furrowed in concentration. All right, I'll see what I can find. Give me a few days. Thanks, Tom, I say, feeling a bit of the weight lift off my shoulders. I owe you one. Don't mention it, he replies, closing his laptop. That's what friends are for. Just try to stay calm, okay? We'll get to the bottom of this. I nod, though staying calm is easier said than done. As I leave the diner, I can't help but feel a sense of foreboding. Something tells me this is just the beginning. Back at home, Claire is in the kitchen, making breakfast. She smiles when she sees me, but I can tell she's still on edge from last night. Morning, she says, handing me a plate of pancakes. Did you have a good walk? It was fine, I reply, forcing a smile. I needed some fresh air. She nods, but there's a tension between us that wasn't there before. We eat in silence, the unspoken questions hanging heavy in the air. I decide to head to work early, hoping to distract myself. At the office, I find it hard to concentrate. My thoughts keep drifting back to Claire and Mark. Around lunchtime, my phone buzzes with a text from Tom. Got some info. Meet me at the park after work. I reply with a quick okay and try to focus on my tasks. The hours drag by, but finally, it's time to leave. I drive to the park, my heart pounding. Tom is already there, sitting on a bench, a file in his hand. Hey, Jack, he says as I approach. I've got some interesting stuff. I sit down beside him, my eyes fixed on the file. What did you find? Mark Davis, Tom begins, opening the file. He's a private investigator like me, based out of the next town over. Recently divorced, no kids. His agency specializes in corporate espionage and high-profile personal cases. I stare at Tom, my mind racing. Why would Claire be meeting with a private investigator? That's the million-dollar question, Tom replies. I did some more digging. Turns out Mark's agency was hired by a company called Novatech a few months ago. They've been under investigation for some shady dealings. Novatech, I repeat, confused. What does that have to do with Claire? I don't know, Tom admits, but it seems too coincidental. I'm going to keep looking into it. In the meantime, you might want to talk to Claire again, see if you can get more out of her. I nod, my thoughts a jumble of possibilities. Thanks, Tom, I appreciate it. Any time, Jack, he says, patting me on the back. We'll figure this out. That evening I decide to confront Claire again. I find her in the living room, reading a book. She looks up as I enter, her expression wary. Jack, is everything okay? She asks. I sit down beside her, taking a deep breath. Claire, we need to talk. I need to know more about Mark. Why were you meeting with him? She looks away, her face pale. Jack, I told you, he's just an old friend. I know, but there's more to it, isn't there? I press. Tom did some digging. Mark is a private investigator. Why would you need a PI, Claire? Her eyes widen in surprise and fear. You had Tom investigate him? Jack, how could you? I had to, I say, my voice firm. I needed to know the truth. Claire sighs, tears welling up in her eyes. Okay, I'll tell you, but you have to promise not to get mad. I promise, I say, though I'm not sure I can keep it. Mark is helping me with something, she begins. Something big. I didn't want to involve you because it's dangerous. Dangerous? Claire, what are you talking about? She takes a deep breath, her hands trembling. I found out that Novatech, the company I work for, is involved in illegal activities. Embezzlement, fraud, even some stuff that could endanger lives. I couldn't just stand by and do nothing, so I reached out to Mark for help. My mind reels. Why didn't you tell me? We could have figured this out together. I didn't want to put you at risk, she says, her voice breaking. I thought I could handle it on my own, but it's bigger than I realized. I'm scared, Jack. I take her hand, my anger melting into concern. We'll figure this out together, Claire. You're not alone. She nods, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I just didn't know how. It's okay, I say, pulling her into a hug. We'll get through this. Together. As I hold her, my mind races with the implications of what she's just told me. Nova to illegal activities danger. The mystery is far from over, and now, more than ever, I need to protect Claire. The stakes are higher than I ever imagined, and I have a feeling this is just the beginning. The next morning dawns with a sense of urgency. Claire and I barely sleep, our minds racing with the revelations of the previous night. As the first light of day filters through the curtains, I make a decision. We need more information, and we need it now. I pick up my phone and call Tom. Tom, it's Jack. We need to meet. Now, I say, my voice barely above a whisper to avoid waking Claire. Understood. My place in an hour, he replies, immediately catching the tension in my voice. Yeah, see you then. I hang up and head to the shower, my mind buzzing with thoughts. Claire joins me in the kitchen a few minutes later, looking as exhausted as I feel. We share a quick breakfast, both of us too preoccupied to make much conversation. Are you meeting Tom? She asks, her voice soft and filled with worry. Yes, we need more information about Novatech and what they're involved in. Stay home today, okay? I don't want you near that place until we know more. She nods, her eyes filled with gratitude and fear. Be careful, Jack. I will, I promise, giving her a reassuring kiss on the forehead before heading out. Tom's apartment is a cluttered mess of papers, gadgets, and half-eaten takeout containers, but it's the perfect headquarters for a private investigator. He greets me at the door, looking serious and focused. Come in, Jack. I've got some updates. We settle in his small living room, and Tom spreads out a series of documents and photos on the coffee table. I've been digging into Novatech, and it's bad. Really bad. They've got their hands in all sorts of illegal activities, money laundering, corporate espionage, even some connections to organized crime. My stomach churns as I look at the evidence. How deep does this go? Pretty deep. And from what I've gathered, Mark was onto something big. Claire's right to be scared. This isn't just about fraud, it's about dangerous people protecting their secrets. I take a deep breath, trying to process everything. So what do we do now? We need more intel, Tom says, his voice grim. I have a contact who works on the inside of Novatech. She's willing to talk, but it's risky. Let's do it, I say without hesitation. Whatever it takes to protect Claire and get to the bottom of this. Later that afternoon, we meet Tom's contact at a small, nondescript cafe on the outskirts of town. Her name is Lisa, and she looks nervous, constantly glancing around as if expecting someone to jump out at her. Thank you for meeting us, I say as we sit down across from her. Lisa nods, her hands trembling slightly as she takes a sip of her coffee. I don't have much time. What do you need to know? Everything, Tom replies. We need to know who's involved, what they're doing, and how we can stop them. She takes a deep breath, then begins to speak rapidly, as if afraid she might lose her nerve. Novatech is a front for a criminal organization. They use the company to launder money and conduct illegal operations under the guise of legitimate business. The CEO, Richard Graves, is at the center of it all. He's ruthless and will do anything to protect his empire. How do we bring him down, I ask, my mind racing. There's a server room in the basement of their headquarters, Lisa explains. It contains all the incriminating evidence, financial records, emails, everything. If you can get in there and retrieve the data, you can expose them. Tom nods, already planning the next steps. How do we get in? Lisa looks around nervously again. There's a security shift change at midnight. It's your best chance. But be careful. If they catch you. She doesn't need to finish the sentence. We all know the risks. Thank you, Lisa, I say sincerely. We'll take it from here. As we leave the cafe, Tom turns to me. Are you sure about this, Jack? It's dangerous. I'm sure, I reply, determination hardening my resolve. We have to do this. For Claire. The hours leading up to midnight are tense. Tom and I prepare as best we can, gathering tools and mapping out our plan. Claire insists on helping, her fear replaced by a fierce determination to see this through. You don't have to do this, I tell her as we load up the car. It's too dangerous. I'm not letting you go alone, she replies firmly. We started this together, and we'll finish it together. We drive to the Novit headquarters, parking a few blocks away to avoid suspicion. The building looms ominously in the darkness, a silent fortress guarding its secrets. All right, Tom says, his voice low and steady. We wait for the shift change, then we move. Jack, you and Claire will go in and get the data. I'll stay out here and keep watch. I nod, my heart pounding with adrenaline and fear. Claire squeezes my hand, her eyes meeting mine with a look of unwavering resolve. We've got this, she says, and I nod, drawing strength from her courage. Midnight arrives, and we move silently towards the building. The security guards change shifts, just as Lisa said, and we slip inside through a side entrance. The interior is eerily quiet, the only sound the soft hum of machinery. We make our way to the basement, following Lisa's directions. The server room is secured with a keypad lock, but Tom's skills as a PI come in handy. He quickly hacks the lock, and we slip inside. The room is filled with rows of servers, blinking lights casting an eerie glow. Claire and I find the main terminal, and she begins to download the data onto a flash drive. The seconds tick by agonizingly slowly. Come on, I mutter, glancing nervously at the door. Finally, the download completes and Claire pulls the drive out. Got it, she says, a triumphant smile on her face. We turn to leave, but the sound of footsteps outside the door freezes us in our tracks. The door swings open and two security guards step in, their eyes widening in surprise. Hey, what are you doing here? One of them shouts, reaching for his radio. Without thinking, I charge at them, knocking the radio out of his hand. Claire joins the fray, using her quick reflexes to dodge the other guard's grasp. It's chaotic, a blur of punches and shouts, but we manage to overpower them and make a break for the exit. We race through the building, alarms blaring behind us. Tom is waiting by the car, his eyes wide with relief as we burst through the door. Go, 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 he shouts, and we pile into the car, speeding away into the night. Back at Tom's apartment, we catch our breath, adrenaline still coursing through our veins. Tom plugs the flash drive into his laptop, and the incriminating evidence appears on the screen. This is it, he says, a note of triumph in his voice. This is enough to bring them down. Claire and I look at each other, a mixture of relief and exhaustion washing over us. We've done it. We've uncovered the truth. But as the adrenaline fades, a new realization sets in. This is just the beginning. Exposing Novit is one thing, but bringing them to justice will be a whole other battle. And I have a feeling it's going to be a fight for our lives. What's our next move? Claire asks, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. We go public, Tom replies. We take this to the authorities, the media, anyone who will listen. We make sure the world knows what Novitek is up to. And we stay together, I add, squeezing Claire's hand. No more secrets. No more hiding. She nods, her eyes filled with determination. Together. As we sit there, planning our next steps, I know the road ahead won't be easy. But with Claire by my side and Tom's unwavering support, I feel ready to face whatever comes our way. The battle has just begun, but we're ready to fight. And this time we're not backing down. The morning sun filters through the blinds, casting long shadows across Tom's cluttered apartment. We spent the night poring over the data, formulating a plan to expose Novatech. The flash drive is our golden ticket, but we need to ensure its contents reach the right hands. All right, Tom says, rubbing his temples. We have two options: go to the authorities or the media. Both are risky, but we can't afford to wait. We should go to the media first, Claire suggests. If we create enough public outrage, the authorities will have to act. I nod in agreement. Tom, do you have any contacts who can help? He smiles, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. As a matter of fact, I do. An old friend from college works at the Daily Gazette. She's a senior editor and will take this seriously. Then let's do it, I say. We can't let Novak get away with this. We quickly gather our things, making sure we have multiple copies of the data. As we head out, I can't shake the feeling of being watched. We drive to the Daily Gazette's headquarters, constantly checking our surroundings for any sign of trouble. Tom's contact, Sarah, meets us in the lobby. She's a sharp-eyed woman in her late 30s, exuding confidence and determination. Tom, it's been a while, she says, shaking his hand. This better be as big as you say. It is, he assures her. We have evidence of massive corporate corruption and criminal activity at Novatech. We need your help to get the story out. Sarah leads us to a conference room where we spread out the documents and explain everything. Her eyes widen as she reads through the files, and she immediately calls her team. This is huge, she says. We'll run the story, but we need to verify everything. Give us a day to do some fact-checking and get it ready for publication. We spend the next 24 hours in a tense state of limbo, waiting for Sarah's call. Every sound, every movement outside feels like a potential threat. Finally, Sarah calls us back to the Daily Gazette. Good news, she says, her face serious but hopeful. We've verified the information. The story goes live tomorrow morning. We've also notified the authorities and they're launching an investigation. Relief washes over us, but it's quickly overshadowed by a sense of impending danger. We know Novatech won't go down without a fight. We decide to stay at Tom's place for safety, keeping a low profile until the story breaks. The next morning, the world wakes up to the explosive headline, Novatech exposed, a web of corruption and crime. The story spreads like wildfire, garnering national attention. The authorities raid Novatech's headquarters, seizing documents and arresting key personnel, including Richard Graves. We watch the news unfold from Tom's apartment, a mixture of relief and anxiety. We've won the first battle, but the war isn't over. Claire and I decide to take a walk to clear our heads, leaving Tom to monitor the news. As we stroll through the park, hand in hand, we talk about our future and the life we want to rebuild. It feels like a fresh start, a chance to move forward without the shadows of Novatech hanging over us. But our moment of peace is shattered when a black SUV screeches to a halt beside us. Before we can react, two men in suits jump out, grabbing Claire and me. Hey, let go of her, I shout, struggling against their grip. Quiet, one of the men snarls, pressing a gun to my side. You're coming with us. They shove us into the SUV and drive off at breakneck speed. My heart pounds as I glance at Claire, her face pale with fear. We need to find a way out of this, but I don't know how. After what feels like an eternity, the SUV pulls into an abandoned warehouse. We're dragged out and thrown into a dimly lit room. Richard Graves stands before us, his expression cold and calculating. Well, he sneers. You thought you could bring me down? You're more foolish than I thought. You won't get away with this, Claire says defiantly. The world knows what you've done. Richard laughs, a chilling sound that sends shivers down my spine. You underestimate the power of money and influence, my dear. But you too. You're loose ends that need tying up. As he speaks, one of the men moves toward us, gun in hand. Desperation fuels my actions and I lunge at him, knocking the gun aside. A struggle ensues, chaos erupting in the confined space. Claire fights back too, using every ounce of strength she has. In the fray, I manage to grab the gun. Richard's eyes widen in surprise and fear. "You don't have to do this, Jack," he says, trying to sound reasonable. "We can make a deal." "I'm done making deals," I say, my voice steady. "This ends now." Just then, the warehouse door bursts open and a team of armed agents storms in. "FBI, drop your weapons." Richard and his men are quickly subdued. Claire and I stand there, stunned and exhausted. One of the agents approaches us, his face familiar. "Tom," I say, recognizing him despite the tactical gear. "Couldn't let you have all the fun," he replies with a grin. "We tracked your phone. Figured you might need some backup." Relief floods over us as the agents secure the scene. Richard is led away in handcuffs, his reign of terror finally over. Tom pulls us into a hug, his expression one of genuine concern. "Are you two okay?" he asks, looking us over for any injuries. "We are now," I reply, holding Claire close. "Thanks to you." The aftermath is a blur of statements and debriefings. The FBI commends us for our bravery, and the media hails us as heroes. Novatech's empire crumbles, and Richard Graves faces a lengthy prison sentence. As the dust settles, Claire and I find a new sense of normalcy. We rebuild our lives stronger and more united than ever. The ordeal has changed us, but it's also brought us closer together. One evening, as we sit on our porch watching the sunset, Claire turns to me with a smile. "You know, for all the danger and fear, I'm glad we went through this together." I squeeze her hand, my heart full of gratitude. "Me too. We faced the darkness and came out stronger." "And we have Tom to thank for a lot of that," she adds, glancing at the phone where a recent text from Tom sits. "He's checking in, as he often does now." "Yeah," I say with a chuckle. "We owe him big time." As the sun dips below the horizon, I feel a sense of peace. The journey has been harrowing, but it's also shown me the strength of our bond. Whatever the future holds, I know we'll face it together. The fight against Novatech is over, but the lessons we've learned and the love we've strengthened will carry us forward. Together we can face anything. And with that, we close this chapter of our lives, ready for whatever comes next.